Hello, my name is Matthias and welcome to the FPL Scope and the FPL eye test for Game Week 10, which is where we take a look at this weekend's Premier League matches from a fantasy Premier League perspective. So let's start with the Friday game between Crystal Palace and Spurs, and this was kind of a typical Spurs game this season where Spurs basically just look pretty solid, they create enough chances and they have some luck go their way, and then they end up winning the match, usually 2-0 nowadays, but they did concede a late goal scored by Jordan Ayew, but the goal should not have stood because it actually hit the hand of Jordan Ayew, and the rules say that if the ball hits the hand of a player right before he scores, it's supposed to be disallowed every single time. And I think it looked quite clear with the video that he did actually touch it with his arm. You could see the ball ricochet off his arm like sort of pulled back a little bit, and the ball changed direction after it hit his chest first, I think, and then the arm. So the goal should have not counted, and I should have had my clean sheet. That's probably why I'm bringing it up. But I'm also bringing it up because VAR has just once again been really terrible. And I'm going to talk a lot about VAR this episode, I feel like, because there are several situations here that were kind of shocking, to be honest. And yeah, but either way, as far as the game goes, we had Heung-min Son once again scoring. He's just a machine currently. He's playing up front for Spurs, so he's going to get those chances. He had the best expected goal involvement for Spurs with 0.85, but most of that is from his chance where he basically had like an open net kind of goal. So most of his XG is from that one chance, but he is in those central positions, and Spurs are really good at pressuring the opposition and winning the ball high up the pitch. And that's really good news for both Son and Maddison because they are usually the ones in those positions to take advantage of that. But I also want to highlight one of the other Spurs players, which is Brennan Johnson. He didn't start this game, but he came on as a sub, and he made a huge impact and actually basically was behind the second goal as well. Of course, with Son and Maddison, as always, really involved with the goal, but he did really well for that goal, and he looked really good in general. So I think maybe Richarlison's time as the left winger for this team is kind of on its last legs now. I feel like Brennan Johnson is just a better pick currently. So in FPL terms, maybe he's someone you want to go with. I think he's like 5.5 or something like that. So if you don't want to spend too much on the Spurs midfielders and you still want to have two Spurs midfielders, maybe Brendan Johnson could become an option at some point. But currently, the Spurs fixtures are not good enough for you to double up in general, I feel like having just Son or just Maddison is going to be enough. Probably Son because he's playing as a striker and he's looking really good. But yeah, I think Brendan Johnson is also like a decent alternative going forward. Defensively, Destiny Udogie was not fit to play this game, which was a bad thing for some like me and a good thing for others, but they didn't keep a clean sheet anyway, so maybe that would have changed if Udogie was starting or played this game, but who knows, really. But yeah, Spurs had some luck, got the first goal from an own goal. Second goal was well worked, and then they conceded a goal, but Spurs against the Crystal Palace was kind of like we suspected. I predicted a 2-0 Spurs win personally, and that's probably what we should have had as well, but we had that final goal from Jordan Ayew to deny the clean sheet for anyone with Pedro Porro like myself. But either way, Crystal Palace as well. The standout player that I've actually listed is Emre Ece, and no, he did not play this game. I'm not trying to fool you. It's just the fact that he is such a huge miss for Crystal Palace at the moment. Like, they can't really produce anything now that Ece has been injured. So with no Elise, no Eze, they basically have no creative power at all in this team. And it shows because they don't really create much at all. 0.61 expected goals in total in this game. Yeah, apart from that, Ayew, not lucky strike. It was a decent goal, to be fair. And for what it's worth, I don't think the rules should be like that. I feel like in that case where he didn't really get that big of an advantage taking the handball anyway, probably should have stood in terms of like how I ideally want football to be, but rules are the rules, and when it hits the hand, it should be disallowed. But either way, but yeah, Crystal Palace, just to finish that point, I know they have good fixtures now, and I know that defensively they've looked good in general. They did actually look pretty good against Spurs as well in terms of defensively. But I don't know, when they don't have SA, they don't have anything to go with up front, nothing to go with in attack. I feel like they're going to be more susceptible to be pressured throughout the whole game and have the other team have the command of the game, and that's not going to be good for any of your defenders. So yeah, if you have someone like Guehi or Anderson currently, like sure, you can keep them. I think that they're decent holds because they do have some decent fixtures. But I personally would not like to buy any Crystal Palace defenders myself either, especially seeing as they are mostly capped at like 6 to 8 points at best, because they don't really score that many goals either, apart from Anderson sometimes. But yeah, that's pretty much that first game. Second game is Chelsea against Brentford, and to be honest, I don't think there's that much between Chelsea and Spurs in terms of how they've played so far this season. If you actually look at expected goals, even though that's not like a perfect statistic as I bring up on this very show every time, Chelsea have actually been better when it comes to XG and expected goals conceded than Spurs this whole season. They are something like 12 or 15 points between them in the table. So part of that is down to luck. I think Spurs have been super lucky in especially the bigger games against Liverpool and Arsenal, for example. I think they've been pretty lucky with some. They have created their own luck as well in terms of the Arsenal game where Jorginho just lost the ball stupidly in midfield, but it was due to pressure from Spurs, so they should get some credit for that. But yeah, Spurs have just been super efficient, and Chelsea have been nothing but efficient. They don't really score that many goals from all the chances they create, and we saw that from this game as well. 2.03 in terms of expected goals, and still 0 goals. But yeah, I don't think a lot of people hyped up the Chelsea chances as being massive, but I don't really think they're that huge. The Chelsea chances in general. They did have the huge Cucurella chance where he got the ball in the middle of the right in front of the goal. He could have passed it to was it Nick Jackson? He could have passed it easily to an open teammate as well, but he did take the shot instead, which was a really poor shot. But apart from that, the shot from Gallagher was pretty far away, not the best in terms of XG. And the shot from Madueke that almost went in was not a high XG shot either. It was just the fact that it almost went in. So there's a difference between a good chance and a chance that almost resulted in a goal. Some chances are not good but could still result in goals, and some chances are obviously really good but don't result in goals. So, or almost goals even. So even though Chelsea were close to scoring, it doesn't mean that they necessarily should have scored either. But yeah, that's just a little distinction there. But either way, this game is not really about Chelsea. It is about Brentford, who once again look pretty good now all of a sudden. They had a really good start to the season, and then they had a really tough spot after losing some players to injuries. But now it seems like they're back to their best, especially Brian Mbeumo. For the second game week in a row, he holds. I had him for last game week, and I sold him before this game because I thought Chelsea away was going to be a tough fixture, and then they have some tough fixtures after this as well. Not the upcoming fixture, though. Brentford have West Ham at home, and Brentford, as a West Ham fan, I know they always beat West Ham, and that's probably going to happen once again this time. And I think Mbeumo is going to be in the thick of it as well when it comes to FPL points, because Mbeumo currently is again looking like a really good option, which is really sad for me who just sold him. But yeah, he looked pretty good in this game as well. It should be noted that Brentford sort of took their chances really well. 2.16, they won the XG battle, but at the same time, the final goal was basically just 1 XG by itself, and that was from a corner where the goalkeeper was all the way up into the opposite end because he tried to score Robert Sanchez. So yeah, Brentford took their chances really well, to be fair to them. And Mbeumo again with the massive haul. But yeah, I think Mbeumo is still looking like a really good option, especially for this next game week against West Ham. He's for sure going to be in my free hit draft for this upcoming game week. And I wish I had him in my team as well for the match against West Ham, because West Ham are not looking good defensively as well. We'll touch on West Ham when we go through that game as well. But yeah, and Mbeumo looks really good. Definite hold if you have him. Someone you could bring in as well, but I think I can wait as well until game week 14. That's about the time where he has some really good fixtures. Then he obviously has the blank in game week 18, which you have to sort of manage. But he has the double in game week 20 as well. So he has some really good matches before and after his blank, so I think he's well worth to bring in at some point, but maybe wait until game week 14 when he's past the likes of, I think it's Arsenal and Liverpool or something that he's facing in game week 12 and 13. But yeah, and Mbeumo is still a really good option. Palmer is also a really good option. He was behind most of the things that Chelsea created. He is also on penalties for now, and he's also a safe starter for now, but as I've written in the notes, Chelsea sorely need Christopher Nkunku, who is one of the best players in the world on his day. He's probably one of the most players that should be talked about really highly. We've seen with Liverpool, who we're going to touch on a bit later on as well. Dominik Szoboszlai has been amazing for Liverpool, and he was amazing at Leipzig as well in the German Bundesliga. But apart from Bayern and sometimes Dortmund maybe, the other teams in Germany don't really get that much attention. And yeah, Leipzig, as we've seen with both Szoboszlai now and also Guardiola in the Premier League, they have had some really good players, and Nkunku is one of them, and he's going to be super good for Chelsea, and I think he's going to be on penalties and potentially free kicks. So, and Nkunku is apparently pretty soon coming back as well. It seems like he's going to be back before the end of the year, which is really good news for Chelsea and potentially for FPL managers as well. And I can also see him playing up front because Nicholas Jackson has not been that good for Chelsea this season, and they have sort of been experimenting with other players up front, even though they don't really have any other out-and-out strikers. But Nkunku could definitely play striker, so he's definitely someone to watch, but that's also for the future. But he is sorely needed because Chelsea just really struggling to score. One of the reasons that they have really high XG is that huge chance towards the end of the game where they had a double shot basically in the 87th minute. They had 2 chances to score, and obviously you get quite a lot of XG from that, but you can also only score 1 goal from that. So XG is not this like super number. Like we're going to see that, especially with Aston Villa as well, as we come to them pretty soon. We're going to discuss that as well. But yeah, Palmer's looking good for 5.0, at least like for now, but Chelsea do have really tough fixtures, so maybe not the best. This was one of the easier fixtures for Chelsea, and now they have tougher fixtures. So yeah, I don't know. Palmer's probably not my highest priority for 5.0, but if you have him, no issues really. You can just keep him because he's still a really good, productive, creative source for Chelsea as well. Moving on, we have the game between Bournemouth and Burnley, and here I'm going to talk mostly about VAR again, but at the same time, just to touch on FPL terms first, huge point swing, or a decent point swing at least for those of you guys with Charlie Taylor on your bench, because he probably came on for either Udogie or Gabriel if you have Taylor in your team. He scored a goal, his first goal for Burnley since 2015-16. Just really surprising. A really well-taken goal, to be fair. A really nice volley from Charlie Taylor, who is like an old-school FPL pick for sure. And he's 3.9 as well in FPL, so it's well worth the price. It looked like he could potentially go on to get like a 15-pointer, get the goal, get the bonus, and get all those points. But he did concede 2 goals. He did also get a yellow card, and then ended up with just a goal and a yellow card. So 6 points for him, which is still really good. Still really nice to get that jam from Charlie Taylor if you have him. But it looked a little bit better as soon as he scored, because Bournemouth is not one of the best teams in the league, but they did actually claw it back in this game. And that's good to see for someone that is still looking to see if Andone Iraola can make something work with Bournemouth, because he needs some time. There were some rumors that he was going to be sacked after the last game, but luckily he got another chance, and they did secure the win against Burnley. But at the same time, they probably shouldn't have had the win, or the win probably shouldn't have stood, because Burnley were kind of screwed towards the end of the match, as we'll touch on as well pretty soon. But also, the first guy to score for Bournemouth was Antoine Semenyo, who is really the forgotten like 4.5 sort of player in this whole scheme. Yeah, Semenyo has looked like the best 4.5 option at certain points amongst the forwards, and yeah, he is a really good player. He just plays for a really bad team, but maybe Bournemouth are starting to turn it around. But at the same time, like I said, the 3 points were kind of lucky because Burnley were definitely screwed towards the end of the game. First, they scored a goal that was deemed offside, which was offside to be fair. Our old friend Jay Rodriguez scored the goal, but it turned out that it was offside. They did check it first and gave the green line. It looked like it was going to be given as a goal. It looked like it was going to be given as onside, but then at a closer look at the pictures, you could see the green line going through the head of Jay Rodriguez. It went literally straight through the middle of his head. So obviously they had not drawn the line correctly, and that makes me just super worried about VAR, and especially without having the semi-automatic offsides that they have in other leagues, and they're going to add that to La Liga next season as well. That is something we sorely need. If we are going to have VAR, I'm a huge not proponent, the opposite of proponent of VAR. Like, I'm a huge anti-VAR guy, and this made me just even more worried about the line being drawn incorrectly. And at least they corrected it and actually disallowed the goal, but that makes me worried that they don't really have the offsides, which should be like the clear and obvious. Like, there are no it's basically you have proof that something is correct or not correct, unlike a lot of other decisions with VAR. But that being incorrect at first makes me, of course, alongside the Liverpool thing that happened a couple of weeks ago, makes me a little bit dubious in terms of even if they have offsides correctly with VAR, and that's a huge worry with VAR in general, because if you're going to have VAR and all the things that it detracts from the game in terms of being in the moment, celebrating goals without any frills, without any worries about the goal being taken away and stuff, if you're going to take away all those things from the game, you definitely need to get the decisions right, and that's not what's happening currently in FPL, or not FPL, in the Premier League in general. So yeah, that's just my small little rant for VAR for now. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it in the other games as well. But yeah, that's not even the full extent of the VAR decisions in this game, because right after that, after the disallowed goal, Burnley get a cross towards the end of the back post. Sandberg again, my fellow Norwegian, is on the back post trying to win a header. And I can't remember exactly which player held him, but basically a Bournemouth player like holds onto his like arm here, into on his sleeve, holds onto his sleeve, so the arm of his goes up with Berge as Berge is going up for the header. He's holding onto his sleeve and then handballs it while holding Berge's shirt. So yeah, if you've seen this a couple times, I'm actually one of those guys that feel like handballs should be really rare. It should be really safe to like the clear and obvious mistakes, basically handballs. But when your arm is in a high position because you're not trying to stop the ball, you're trying to stop the player from going up by holding his shirt, then that should definitely be a handball. Like anytime your hand is up in an unnatural position from not doing a football move, it should be a handball. Like if you're trying to block the ball with your feet and your arm goes up a little bit outside of your body, I don't think it should be a penalty. But if your hand goes up because you're holding on to a player's shirt, it should definitely be a penalty. And they didn't even check it with VAR, and Burnley got super screwed from that. Company even after the game said that he was really upset, and he went to the referees to get like an explanation and stuff. And I don't really think they had an explanation, because that definitely should have been a penalty for Burnley, which would have been interesting to see who would have taken the penalty as well, because I don't think Burnley have had a penalty so far this season. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but yeah, is it Rodriguez? Is it Amdouni? Is it Lyle Foster? Even though Foster wasn't fit to play in this game, I think. It would be interesting to see, even though Burnley are not the most interesting team in terms of FPL terms. But yeah, that's my little VAR rant there. So let's move on to the next games. Next up, we have Arsenal against Sheffield United, and this game was, as suspected, a huge win for Arsenal. I just have to note it straight away. 0.03 XG from Sheffield United. They were not even close to scoring a goal in this game. So for anyone that brought in Gabriel Magalhaes, he could be really upset, because yeah, this would have been the perfect game for him. That's why a lot of people brought him in, including myself. Arsenal scored 2 set pieces. They didn't concede a single goal. And with that information before the game, you would have definitely wanted Gabriel Magalhaes in your squad. But he didn't play. He was rested for this game, as well as Martin Ødegaard as well. Kiwior and Smith Rowe got the chance instead. Arsenal saw an opportunity to rest some of their better players and still get an easy win, and that's exactly what happened. And that's mostly down to Nketiah as well, who was fantastic in this game. The first goal was really well taken. The second goal, I can't actually remember off the top of my head right now, but the third goal, the shot, was really, really good from Nketiah. So he looked really good. Oh yeah, the second goal was obviously the corner where Saka put in the corner, and there was some controversy about the FPL assist to Saka given there, and as a Saka owner and Saka captainer this game week, I'm definitely going to be on the side of this being an assist. But at the same time, if you look at the replay, the ball, if it hadn't been touched by the goalkeeper, would have ended up with Nketiah in the first place. So I think it is a legit assist, but I do understand people who are kind of upset about that, giving as an assist for Saka as well. But yeah, that's always going to be also another point of contention when it comes to decisions, whether it is Premier League or Fantasy Premier League. But yeah, that was the second goal, and the third goal was a really nice shot from Nketiah. Then Saka got subbed off early as well in the 72nd minute, I think. So for me, who captained him, that's a huge downside. We saw Salah with Liverpool score in the 76th minute, so we know that a lot of goals can happen after the 70 minutes played. So that's really bad luck for anyone that went for Arsenal players, including myself. I'm going to be having a little pity party for myself here, even though I had a good game week, to be fair. But yeah, Arsenal in general just absolutely destroyed Sheffield United. They scored a couple goals towards the end of the match as well. Penalty that Fabio Vieira took, which was interesting, with Saka off the pitch and Martinelli off the pitch as well, I think, and Ødegaard off the pitch. All the usual suspects. Havertz was still on the pitch, to be fair, but Vieira took it and scored it nicely. Good for him. He scored the winning penalty as well in the Community Shield. So yeah, he is a decent pen taker and decent free kick set piece taker as well. But yeah, the final goal was Tomiyasu, I think, the other corner goal where Tomiyasu scored. But yeah, Gabriel Magalhaes would have been feasting in this game if he played, but he got rested. I don't think you should worry if you have Gabriel in terms of having him for the future. I don't think this was him being dropped again like it was at the start of the season. It was just the fact that they wanted Kiwior to get a chance to play some Premier League minutes against basically a championship level team. And yeah, nothing more than that. I think Gabriel is going to play every single game going forward as well. He had played a lot of games before this, and he just needed the rest, and that's basically what happened in this game. But yeah, Arsenal 5-0, easy win for them. Sheffield United, don't really have to say much apart from just target them whenever you have players playing against Sheffield United. Start them in your team, buy them if you can potentially as well, because Sheffield United are not looking good at all, and they're going to go down probably or potentially with, not probably, but potentially with the worst point total in Premier League history. Potentially, but we'll see about that. Moving on to the Wolverhampton against Newcastle game. This was actually a pretty even game, even though the XG doesn't really tell that story. It says that Newcastle had 2.19 XG and Wolves only had 0.89, which seems really strange to me because Wolverhampton looked like a really good side, but the thing with Wolverhampton is that they never really get like the final shot off. So I think that's sort of why the XG numbers are not giving them any favors, because they look really good. They win the ball. They do those really nice like small like touches and turns and stuff that makes them get like into like chance positions. But then the final pass, the final shot never seems to work out for Wolves, apart from some instances which they got in this game twice. But yeah, Wolves as always look really good, especially against the better teams. They've been really impressive in all the big games basically this season. But at the same time, they really struggled to score. Newcastle took advantage of that and took the lead at first, but then Wolves struck back 1-1 from a corner. And once again, Trippier was kind of at fault at the first from the first goal, and Trippier just had a really poor game in general. He did have some decent XG still, but yeah, really poor game for Trippier, who also got a yellow card, ended up with 0 points. Same with Dan Burn, got a yellow card, ended up with 0 points because they conceded twice. Newcastle did score again in the second half. The first goal, again, for Newcastle was again a penalty, and yeah, Fabian Schär won the penalty, but he kind of flopped, as they say in the US. He kind of simulated, I think. I don't think he was touched that much by Hwang Hee-chan, but he still went to the ground, and that's enough for a penalty sometimes, as we'll also see with the Man United-Man City game. But yeah, Wilson stepped up to take the penalty, not that confidently, because the penalty was kind of terrible, to be honest, but it still went past the hands of Jose Sa and ended up being a goal for Wilson. But yeah, Wolverhampton struck back. Once again, Pedro Neto, amazing. He got an assist once again. He just keeps performing, or has kept performing at least. But then he got injured towards the end of the match, which was really sad. He was on a run, and then all of a sudden he has that like basically classic FIFA animation where he just like stops and halts and sort of holds his leg, because yeah, he had like a hamstring issue, I think, and had to be subbed off, which is really sad to see because Neto has been really good this season. Arguably team of the season levels for Pedro Neto so far. But now he's going to be out a couple of weeks with a hamstring injury, which is really sad to see, both for Neto himself and for Wolverhampton, because he has been their best player. But even still, even though Newcastle scored and had the 2-1 lead, Wolves struck back with a really nice goal from Hwang Hee-chan, who also has been really, really, really good lately. Neto and Hwang have just quietly been putting up like scores between 5 and 10 points every single game week, pretty much. And that is something that we saw back in the day with Wolverhampton as well, with Raul Jimenez. He was basically the OG of like doing just the honest work of getting between 5 and 10 points every single game week. So like not too many people bring them in any particular game week, but if you have them from start to finish from that run, you're going to get a lot of points because yeah, Neto has been one of the better midfielders in FPL so far this season as well, and Hwang as well, especially for that price. Really good value. But now with Neto injured, not so sure they are the team to target currently, because yeah, Neto is a huge source of their creativity as well, and is basically the one player that could get those assists and goals along with Hwang Hee-chan. So I think it's going to be tougher times ahead for Wolverhampton without Pedro Neto for the next few weeks. When it comes to Newcastle, they looked pretty tired. Like I've written there, Trippier had a mare. He had one of his worst games of maybe his career, but at least the last few seasons. Even though like when he has looked so good so far this season, this was one of his weaker games. But I still don't think you need to panic. But they do have Arsenal next game week, so that's a tough game for them. But yeah, Trippier might not be super essential. He is 7.0 now. I've said this for the past couple of weeks, and he's just been punishing me every week, getting assists and bonus. But now, I don't know, Newcastle look a bit tired. Maybe Trippier is going to be rested at some point pretty soon. They have Livramento, who's a really good backup at that position. So yeah, I'm not so sure about Trippier going forward in FPL, but if you have him, I still think you should just keep him, unless you can downgrade him and get someone like, if you don't have Haaland, for example, downgrading Trippier is probably one of the easiest ways to get Haaland back into your team, or getting someone like Salah or potentially Son and stuff. Like, there are some pricier players that you could potentially you need to have to sell Trippier to get those guys. But yeah, that's pretty much that game. 2-2. Once again, VAR kind of dubious there. Wolves also had a penalty shout where the ball hit, I think it was Bruno Guimaraes who had the ball, but I think it just hit his leg. I don't think it hit his hand, actually, even though it looked like it hit his hand because he had his arms up, and the ball went onto his knee and then just went out. But yeah, I can really see the handball there, so I kind of don't have a gripe with VAR in that occasion. But yeah, moving on to West Ham against Everton, and I don't really have any VAR complaints here, but I do have a lot of complaints about West Ham because they didn't look good at all. Jared Bowen, Paqueta, Cresswell, yeah. Nothing is working at the moment for West Ham. They did not look good at all, 0.59 XG. Everton, to be fair, didn't really create much more XG either, but they did get the goal from Calvert-Lewin. And once again, it was kind of poor defensively from Nketihattrick, who is not looking the best for West Ham. He has not been the best this season at all. I do think personally that Mavropanos should start for West Ham, but yeah, we'll see if Moyes sticks to his guns with Aguerd and Zuma, or if he makes a change. But yeah, in general, West Ham started the game off better. Everton didn't really press them that well at the start of the game. It looked like West Ham were just going to have their way with Everton this game. But as the game went along, Everton turned up their pressure, became a much better side defensively, and I have to really give high praise to Jared Branthwaite because he was really amazing in this game. There was one situation where Mikel Antonio basically got a chance to run through and run past the Everton defense. And we know Antonio, with his speed and strength, he can run past and basically barge his way past pretty much anyone. But Branthwaite, not only did he keep up with Antonio when it comes to pace, he did actually outmuscle him as well for the ball. So Branthwaite is looking really good, and is a huge reason why the Everton defense is looking so much better this season, at least lately, now that people have sold Pickford, than they have done this past season with Sean Dyche last season. They did not look good defensively, but now they're looking more and more solid defensively. They have Calvert-Lewin back up front, who is a really good player. Scored again against West Ham. I was reminded that he used to be a West Ham killer before all the injuries. And once again, he basically made a difference between Everton and West Ham in this game. So yeah, Calvert-Lewin and centre-backs for Everton, really, really, really good. We know Everton have some really good midfielders as well. They did have a pretty good chance with Doucouré as well, who was through on goal. But a really good save saved West Ham from conceding more than just the one goal. But yeah, Areola as well. He is one of the most popular FPL options, but now that he's 4.3 and West Ham are still one of the worst teams defensively so far this season, I'm not so sure Areola is that good of an option anymore. So personally, I have not brought him in so far because I just haven't had the time to. I haven't had the extra transfers to do Areola in for one of our goalkeepers. But at this point, I think I'm just going to stay away because West Ham are conceding a lot of goals, and he is 4.3 now, so he's not the best value. But Everton, they don't really have any good runs in terms of fixtures until this very end of the season, but they do have some decent runs. So I think they have some decent candidates for players that you want to just bench some weeks, start some weeks. Calvert-Lewin is one of them. He is sort of cheaper in terms of price when it comes to forwards, and he does have the injury history, which is making it more worrisome to trust him in terms of FPL going forward. But for the price that he is a pretty decent option. And Doucouré as well had the big chance, like I said, for Everton. He didn't score, but yeah, he was really close once again. He has been one of the best players for Everton this season as well. The midfield is really good. I think Garner has been one of the more underrated players for Everton. Ghana Gay is not that good anymore. That is sort of low-key a thing as well. But Doucouré is really good. Onana is amazing, and he deserves a move to a bigger club in the summer because he is a really, really, really good player. He's not talked about enough. And as a West Ham fan, I know what that's like with Declan Rice, who was fantastic, has been fantastic this past 3 seasons, especially for West Ham. But now that he's at Arsenal, he's getting all the praise all of a sudden, even though he's doing exactly the same thing that he did at West Ham. So I think Onana is one of those guys who can move on to a bigger club and get a lot of praise once he gets that top 6 hype, which is the biggest hype machine in the world. If you've seen Thiago Silva and Casemiro, for example, they've been amazing in other places in the world, in Milan, PSG, Real Madrid, of course, for Casemiro. But only when they moved to the Premier League is when they actually got the recognition for being like the class players that they are. Thiago Silva as one of the better center backs of the last generation as well. But yeah, they needed the move to Premier League, or the top 6 in the Premier League, to be honest, to get that sort of hype. So I think that might be next for Onana as well. But in the end, deserved win for Everton. They basically just nullified West Ham when it came to offensive output. Bowen did have a decent game. Kudus looked good in his start for West Ham. Souček was benched for this game. Should also be noted with West Ham that both Edson Alvarez and Lucas Paqueta got stupid yellow cards towards the end of the game, and that means both of them are suspended for the game against Brentford. That's always a tough game for West Ham, like I said previously. That also should bode well for someone like Mbeumo playing against a pretty weakened West Ham side who are not looking good at the moment. So yeah, keep that in mind. Next up, we have Brighton against Fulham, and again, Fulham just somehow managed to get results, even though they don't look that good. 0.71 XG, didn't really have the best chances. The goal was pretty much not that big of a chance either, but Palhinha, credit to him, did a really good shot from outside the box, and it went in. Brighton did take the lead, however, with Evan Ferguson, who is looking like a good option as a striker. He didn't really create much apart from the goal. He had one other shot on goal that was pretty decent, but apart from that, not the biggest chances, but he took his first chance really well and scored a goal. So really happy that I had him as like a differential pick for the weekly wildcard draft last week. We'll see if he keeps his place for this week's team. But yeah, Mitoma didn't really look that attacking. I felt like he was sort of given more defensive responsibilities because Estepinan's not there. Solly Mart was injured. He was basically playing as a fullback as well for Brighton before he got injured. And Mitoma looked kind of defensive-minded in this game. He did create one decent chance for Joao Pedro towards the end of the match, but apart from that, he looked pretty non-existent this game, which is not something you usually see from Mitoma when Brighton play the likes of Fulham, because usually Brighton would be a team to basically run past Fulham, but Brighton, with all their injuries, with all their matches lately, not looking their best. So Mitoma, I was pretty high on him for this game in particular and the next few game weeks, because Brighton have really, really, really good fixtures for forever, basically, until like game week 26 or something. I think they have really good fixtures. So yeah, Mitoma is of course a really good player, so you shouldn't really lose faith either. But yeah, he didn't look too good in this game. Adingra is the other midfield option for Brighton that we should talk about, and he actually had a really good chance at the start of the game. He got a cross towards the back post, and he had like a pretty decent chance to shoot it, but he just failed his touch a little bit. So I think the actual XG register from this chance was not that high, but it was a really huge chance. If you look at the highlights, he basically had the ball at the back post with a pretty open goal, where he easily could have scored. So I think Adingra looks really good. I think he's going to keep playing a lot for the next few matches. Sorry. So yeah, I think Adingra looks like a decent pick going forward. I would not worry about this game, about him not having that high XG, because he did have a really good chance, and he did look pretty lively as well. Even from the goal for Ferguson, he was pretty open on the right-hand side. He could have had the ball, could have received the ball there as well. So I think Adingra is actually looking like a pretty good pick, and especially for the price. Maybe he is a better pick than Mitoma at the moment, but at the same time, Mitoma is the best player and the most nailed player for Brighton, and I expect Brighton to sort of become better as they move along for the next few game weeks. But pretty disappointing 1-1 result here with Fulham equalizing and then basically managing to keep the draw as well and keep the point, Fulham. So once again, get kind of a lucky point there, Fulham. But yeah, they are really resilient, if nothing else, Fulham, and they're probably going to keep their place because there are so many bad teams in the Premier League at the moment. Next up, we have Liverpool against Nottingham Forest, and this was a pretty easy win for Liverpool. Once again, Mohamed Salah was immense, created a lot of chances for Liverpool. First goal for Liverpool was Diogo Jota, who scored after Salah passed it to Nunez. Nunez had a shot that almost went in, but a good save from Matt Turner ended up into the feet of Jota, who scored. And then they scored the second goal as well. Darwin Nunez got on the end of a pass from Szoboszlai. And Nunez is basically looking like a really good option now that he's starting pretty much every game week, at least apart from the games where he's coming back from the international break, where he's usually being subbed or being played as a bench player. But yeah, Darwin looked really good in general and scored a goal, had an assist as well, or got the assist for the Jota goal. And then Salah finally scored towards the end of the match as well, with Szoboszlai passing it up the pitch for Salah. Matt Turner coming out from his own goal, coming out from his own box, basically just completely missing the ball, making it an easy score, easy goal for Salah. And Salah once again got a decent chunk of points in FPL. He's only blanked in one game week so far this season, and that was the game week where he got the goal disallowed, which shouldn't have been, against Spurs, where basically he had the pass to Diaz, which was where he was onside, but it wasn't given, even because of VAR being terrible, like I've said a couple times in this video. But yeah, pretty standard win for Liverpool, to be honest. Darwin is really someone to take note of. They also really didn't struggle that much to keep their clean sheets. Nottingham Forest did create a couple of chances towards the end of the game, especially one with Elanga, where we got a chance to hit it on the volley first time. Really well struck shot from Elanga, but it just hit the bar and went out, almost wiping off the clean sheet for Liverpool. But Liverpool kept the clean sheet for the second time in a row, or second game in a row. So anyone with Tsimikas should be really encouraged by what they've seen so far. He was subbed off after about an hour against Everton, but after that, everything has pointed towards Tsimikas being a really good pick and really nailed pick going forward. He was rested in the Europa League game, didn't play at all, and then now he played 90 minutes in the league. No questions asked. So I think Tsimikas is going to be nailed in the league. He's going to be rested in the League Cup, going to be rested in the Europa League. And he's pretty much going to play every single league game. And considering he takes set pieces, he's a pretty attacking-minded fullback in the first place, and Liverpool are actually looking pretty good defensively. I think Tsimikas is like one of the best options in FPL currently. So Liverpool have three really good options in Tsimikas, Salah, and Nunez. I don't think you should really go after Szoboszlai, even though he has decent numbers and 2 assists from this game. He has had basically 2 high-scoring games this season, and the rest of the games he hasn't done really anything in terms of FPL. So he is a fantastic player, definitely someone who should be in the team of the season so far. But in terms of FPL, I don't think he's the best, especially considering he's a midfielder and takes up a really valuable midfield spot for the price of 7 million, I think. So yeah, I think it's just a little bit too pricey. I would not touch Szoboszlai, but Nunez, Salah, and Tsimikas look like 3 really good options for Liverpool. Because Nottingham Forest can't really say much from this game. Away at Anfield against Liverpool is always a tough task. Elanga, I think, just looks really good in general. I think he's been a really underrated asset since he sort of like flopped at Man United. Or not flopped in particular with Man United, but didn't really play that much for Man United, who have been struggling in their own right. But I think Elanga is showing that maybe he should have been given more of a chance at United, because he's looked really good lately. But yeah, that's pretty much all you can say about Forest in this game. Elanga almost had that wonder goal, which would have been a full volley on the back post, and it would have been a really nice goal, but it was just a little bit off from going into the net rather than going onto the bar. But yeah, Liverpool 3-0, easy win for them, easy clean sheet for them. A lot of good players to choose from with Liverpool. There are also a lot of good players to choose from with Aston Villa, and a lot of people were looking forward to this game against Luton in terms of FPL points. A lot of people were relying on Ole Watkins to get FPL points, and he did have 1.28 expected goal involvement, non-penalty expected goal involvement, but it resulted in 0 goals. It should be noted, however, that half of this number for Watkins is expected goals. He did have 0.74 expected goals, I think, but that's just down to 1 chance, where he had a double chance, basically. So that's also another case where XG doesn't really tell the full story. First of all, I think this probably would have been called off if he had scored, because both the pass to Matty Cash and the pass from Cash to Watkins were like really tight calls, where I think maybe potentially was offside. So this maybe would have been called off anyway and would have been 0 XG, but instead Watkins had a really good chance to score, shot it straight at the goalkeeper, got another good chance to score, shot it straight at the goalkeeper again. So he got more, I think he got about 0.7 XG when he could have only scored 1 goal. So you might say that, oh, he scored a hat-trick and had 2 assists in a different game, and he had more XG in this game, so he could have had the same sort of haul this time. But basically, he could have had 1 goal and 1 assist. He had another good pass for Saniola as well. Could have been an assist, but yeah. 1 goal and 1 assist would have been amazing for Watkins, and he did. He was actually my suggestion for captain if you had him in your team. I think he probably was the best captain this game week, but he didn't end up getting points. But in terms of expected numbers and the chance that he had and the other assist chance that he had, he would have been a decent captaincy option as well. So kind of unlucky for Watkins owners there, but there are some other lucky Aston Villa player owners in general. I am one of them. I have Diaby still. I brought him in Game Week 8. He had blanked in Game Week 8 and in Game Week 9, but this game, everything fell down to him perfectly. He got the goal, the first goal for Aston Villa, or the second goal for Aston Villa. McGinn scored the first goal, but the second goal for Aston Villa, Diaby got. Ball ended up with him in the box from a header from Leon Bailey, actually. The ball ended up with Diaby, who once again struck the ball really nicely. He's really good at those like first-time volleys, I think, Diaby. He had another one in the previous game. I think it was like in Game Week 3 or Game Week 4, where the ball basically hit the goalkeeper and the bar and went out. He's really close to scoring. So yeah, Diaby took his goal really well. He also created another chance, which resulted in an own goal from Lockyer. It was pretty close to being a direct goal for Diaby as well. If he had just gotten it a bit more towards the goal rather than out from the goal, it would have been counted as a goal rather than an own goal. But Diaby got the assist there, got the goal from the 2-1 or 2-0 goal as well. So I said goal a lot of times there, but yeah, he got goal, assists, and 3 bonus points. So really huge haul for anyone with Diaby. And the other lucky Aston Villa player was Matty Cash. She was subbed off after the 69th minute, I think, or something like that. And then 4 or 5 minutes later, Luton scored like one of the scrappiest goals you'll see, which is basically par for the course for Luton. They score a lot of these goals where they just like basically just will the ball into the net. And that deleted the clean sheet for Aston Villa, but not for Matty Cash. He was subbed off a bit earlier. Sadly for Cash, though, he got a stupid yellow card earlier in the game, which also meant that he didn't get the bonus points. So if it wasn't for that yellow card, he would have had 1 more point from not getting the -1 from the yellow card, and he probably would have had 2 more bonus points as well. So he probably would have ended up with 3 more points if not for the yellow card. But at the same time, anyone with Cash should consider themselves lucky, considering he was subbed off right before they conceded. But at the same time, Aston Villa shouldn't have conceded, because the goal is basically a ball into the box. Consta tries to header it, and he headers it towards his own goal. It hits the bar, hits Emi Martinez in the back, and then goes in as well. So really unlucky for Newcastle or Aston Villa to concede. Really lucky for Luton to score, but it doesn't really make a difference in the end, because Aston Villa were the better side as expected in this game and beat Luton 3-1 as expected. But Watkins blanked. Diaby had a huge haul, which is pretty lucky for those of us with Diaby and Watkins, and pretty unlucky for those of you guys with Watkins. But that's just how FPL works sometimes. Finally, the last game is Man United against Man City. And this is where I'll have another bit of a moan when it comes to VAR, because the first half was actually like decently even. Man City were obviously the better team, as they always are against Man United nowadays, because they are just a better team in general. But Man United actually looked not too bad and created a couple chances. Didn't really concede that many chances either from City in the first half. But then they conceded a penalty, and it was basically one of the cheapest penalties you'll see, because yeah, Rodri is going towards the ball in the box. He's not even close to the ball, I think. Højlund sort of like takes his arm into the chest of Rodri, and Rodri basically, as he sees the ball go past him, he sees that he can't reach the ball, and he just falls down. He falls down, complains a lot, and those are the 2 things you need to do to get VAR on your side. VAR checks it, and they actually give the penalty, which is kind of crazy when you look at the other situations in different games. For example, in the Wolverhampton-Newcastle game, Sasa Kalajic gets hauled up with both hands or both arms around his waist. He gets lifted up from the pitch, and that does not result in a penalty. But this time, just one measly arm towards the chest of Rodri, who falls down like a sack of potatoes. He gets the penalty, which is kind of stupid. But yeah, Haaland steps up confidently to take the penalty, and from that point on, Man City were just all guns blazing and were the best team by far on the pitch, especially in the second half. So Haaland got his second goal. He also got the assist for Foden, so a huge haul for Haaland, as we all expected. Away against Man United is sort of looked at as a tough fixture, but as we know from Man United this season, no game against Man United is a tough fixture, because they are just really, really bad. But still, the standout player for me is actually Onana. He had a huge save from a Haaland chance right before the half as well. Haaland's goal in the second half was basically a replay of that, where he actually scored this time. But yeah, Onana had some really good saves. He had some clumsy moments as well in this game as well. I can't lie about that. But if it wasn't for Onana, I think this would have been like 5 or 6-0 potentially for Man City as well, because they are just that much better than Man United at the moment. And there's not really much more to say about the game than that. Alvarez blanked, didn't really look up to his best. Foden was actually really involved and had the goal as well, which greatly contributes to his XG, because it was basically just an open net shot from Foden. But Foden looked good in general. Haaland did really good. Bernardo Silva was the man of the match from at least judging for Sky Sports, and he was really good as well. He was 11th now, I think, in the Ballon d'Or, and to be honest, it's kind of deserved as well, because Bernardo Silva is one of the better players we've had in the Premier League the last few seasons, and he doesn't really get the most credit because he's always just consistently playing at a level that is really, really high, but he doesn't really get many assists or goals, so he's not really an FPL option. But in terms of just being a really good football player, Bernardo Silva is one of the best. And that pretty much wraps up the FPL test for this game week. Yeah, that's pretty much wraps up this video in general as well, so give it a like if you liked it. This was kind of a jumbled episode. I am not too happy about the summary, but whatever. That happens sometimes with the best of us as well. If you did like the video, however, please drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, like most people say. If you're old as well, if you've watched this content for a while and you still haven't subscribed, please do. I would greatly appreciate it. Would really like all the help I can get in terms of growing this channel. There are going to be more videos this week as well. It's going to be a fun FPL Scope podcast with Kevin finally, because we haven't had one the last few weeks. I went to Barcelona together, which was really fun, but yeah, I'm not going to bore you with my personal life details. But either way, if you've made it this far, thank you so much. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. So, bye.